From your perspective as a Palestinian politician, A, do you think this is going to happen? I know you're in the West Bank and not in Doha or Tel Aviv or Gaza. Do you think this is going to happen?
Yes, I do. I think we're closer to a deal than any time before for several factors. I do not underestimate the possibility that Netanyahu could torpedo the agreement as he did 4 times before. That's something we have to be very careful about. But this time he knows very well that if he wants to stop this deal, he will be confronting also Trump and the whole world and all the mediators and everybody that has put hope in achieving the ceasefire. I think the sad thing, I'm almost sure we will have a deal. But the sad thing is that we could have had this deal back on the 3rd of July last year. And we could have saved at least 10,000 lives of Palestinians who were killed during this period of time. As a matter of fact, I hold Netanyahu personally responsible for not allowing this to happen. And because of that, not only 10,000 Palestinians were killed, but also many Israelis, especially some Israeli prisoners who were killed because of Israeli bombardment.
And obviously you know that Hamas has also played a recalcitrant position, very, very slow, foot-dragging, and wanted, as Secretary Blinken told us, expected the cavalry to come to its rescue. And again, lives have been lost on both sides. You've talked about Trump and well, let me ask you, what role do you think the arrival of Donald Trump has played? You said what it did to the Israelis, but what about to Hamas? Have they also had their minds focused because, Trump said all hell will break out if this doesn't happen?
Well, maybe this had a little effect, but in reality, the hell he was promising, we already had. Gaza was in hell already, and people were suffering already. 2 million people were starving. 2 million people were subjected to diseases. My medical colleagues tell me all the time that each person in Gaza was getting sick 3 times a month because of lack of clean water, because of lack of hygiene, because of lack of food, because of the cold weather, and so many other factors, because of lack of shelters. 90% of the houses in the north of Gaza are destroyed. 80% of all houses in Gaza are destroyed. So people were already in hell. The change here happened because I think Netanyahu, who manipulated Biden and his administration so many times and undermined and destroyed any potential for agreements, as I said 4 times before. This time he knew he had no ability to maneuver anymore because he has no leverage. In the past, when he obstructed Biden and cheated Biden maybe, and made Biden, the American president, lie for him, he knew that if he has a confrontation with Biden, he will have a leverage of the support of Trump. Now Trump is saying, stop the war. Trump is saying, enough is enough. And that's why Netanyahu knows very well that he cannot play games with Trump. He cannot do to Trump what he did to Biden. And he doesn't have a leverage anymore. But besides that, there is also a lot of internal pressure in Israel. I think we reached this point not because Hamas changed their positions strategically. No, they had already made so many concessions. We reached this point because Netanyahu understood that he cannot resist the pressures anymore from inside Israel and from outside Israel.
Mustapha Barghouti, as you know, this year plus of this horrible war in response to what Hamas did, the horrible massacres it committed inside Israel, October 7th, has just been a complete and utter disaster. Do you think Hamas also has been weakened? You say Israel has no leverage, but what leverage does Hamas still have? Hezbollah's gone, Iran has been weakened, or not gone, I don't mean gone, but they've all been weakened. And Sinwar is dead, and Sinwar's deputy is dead. Surely there's a lot of pressure on Hamas as well. It also has to decide how not just this phase, but a second phase is going to go. What do you expect if this ceasefire works out? Is the second phase in the next 6 weeks and beyond?
Well, I do hope that the next phase will be successful negotiations about how to transform this temporary ceasefire into an end of the war. And that's what we need. Enough is enough. So many lives have been lost. So many people have suffered. Just to give you an example, I think according to all statistics, Gaza has lost 10% of its population. That means not only the killed people, but people who were injured and people who were tortured to death. 10% is a huge number. If we apply that to the United States of America, proportionally, you would be talking about 32 million Americans killed or injured since in the last 15 months. That's more than anybody can tolerate. So the suffering is huge. And I don't have to repeat to you that what we said before many times, that 7th of October was not a beginning. It was a result of what we should look at, the main problems. What we need now is not just a ceasefire that hopefully will become an end of this war, but we need to deal with the root causes of the problem, the causes that led to the 7th of October, and in particular, the longest occupation in modern history. Israel has been occupying West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem for more than 57 years. The longest ethnic cleansing maybe in the region. Israel has ethnically cleansed 70% of the Palestinian population since the 76 years. And now it is denying people even the right to say that they have the right to come back home to the places they were displaced from. So ethnic cleansing, apartheid, occupation, all these are the root causes of this problem. And that's what the world should be dealing with and what we should be dealing with, because we want to remove the causes of the problem. We want not only to treat, as I say that as a medical doctor, not only to treat the symptoms, but the cause of the disease. And the starting point is to pressure Israel to end the occupation, to end the system of oppression of another people, for the sake of both Palestinians and Israelis.
And Dr. Barghouti, that's your view of that side. But what about the view of your side? I mean, I know you're not a member of the PA, but the PA is ossified. It's literally not done much or anything for its people for many years, and I know you agree with that as well. Part of the second phase of all of this is to have a reformed PA to try to become, leadership in Gaza as well. And the last thing in our interview that Secretary Blinken told me was the United States remains committed to a Palestinian state. So how do you think your side needs to get with the picture in order to make this finally happen for your people?
Well, I think this is a very important question, Kристиан, and I thank you for that. In reality, the big question here is what will happen later. And the reform in this case should not mean more securitized Palestinian Authority, greater security operation, greater security apparatus. It should mean democratization of the Palestinian system. It should mean to have what you have in the United States and in other countries of the world, the right to choose our leaders freely and democratically. And that's why we are calling for the formation of a unified national leadership, for a national consensus government according to the agreement we concluded together with all other parties, and which has not been implemented yet. The best way of dealing with the situation is to have a unified government that guarantees the unity of West Bank and Gaza, and not the separation of Gaza from the West Bank as some Western leaders want to do and as Israel wants to do. A unity between them would guarantee the path to a possibility of a Palestinian state. But also we want this Palestinian state not to be an autocratic system. We want people not to be controlled by security pressure. We want people to willingly want to participate in building a future of peace by democratic participation. Democracy, in my opinion, in our case, is a precondition for a true, just, and lasting peace. Because what we need is not another agreement imposed on Palestinians that will not work, as has happened to Oslo Agreement. What we need is something that Palestinian people agree and accept. And what we want is not different from other people of the world. We want to have prosperity, we want to have peace, we want to have justice. As was said, we want our children to have proper education, we want our sick people to get proper medical care. But that requires really true reform, and reform here means democratization and not oppressing people with yet another form of oppression.